And I should just Perfect. That was perfect timing. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we do record this meeting. So there are some people that have had some conflicts, and we like to share the video afterwards just so that everybody can level set and be on the same page as we go forward. But thank you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I know your time is extremely valuable. So thank you for joining us today. Let's see. Ashley, if you could go to the first slide. Great. We really hope that you feel that overall this orientation session feels collaborative, engaging, supportive. We do have a couple activities to kind of get people's juices flowing in terms of problem solving. And our overall goal is to just make sure that you feel supported, motivated, excited for the incoming semester, and confident about your next steps, particularly in the next couple weeks before you welcome your fellow on Groundhog Day, actually. I think it's September 2nd. So there we go. Next slide, please. Great. So this is just a very high level agenda of what we're doing today. We're first going to talk about the SITC program and special projects. We've received feedback from you all that having examples of projects is very helpful. So we've added some more of those here. We'll take a brief break before noon, and then we'll be back to talk about how we recruit students. And then again, as I had mentioned before, get you set up for the semester ahead. Finally, at 1 p.m., we have an optional work session. Some of our staff will stay on the call, and we will go ahead and answer any additional questions. If there's something that you want to go a little bit deeper on that you're curious about, we're happy to talk more then. We will have periodic Q&A portions during this overall orientation, so you can ask your questions then too. But if you are curious and want to do a little bit of work with us, we will be available at the very end as well. So let's see. I think we're ready to go right into introduction. So if I may ping to you, Edie, and then we can go on maybe left to right.
Wonderful. My name is Edie Churchill. I use they, them pronouns. I am the COO for College for Social Innovation. So I have my hands in a little bit of everything we do here, and I am excited to meet you all. I think some of you I know and some of you I don't. So welcome, everybody, and I will kick it to Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Gunn. I'm the director of internship team, but I work with the team. We all work together to support the internship program, to advise both you and our fellows, and to make sure that everyone's having a successful internship experience. I will pass it back to Corey.
Hi, everybody. I am Corey Clark. My official title is Senior Manager of Internships here at CFSI, and this is my sixth semester supporting students as a SITC advisor. I'm also responsible for mentor resources, so I have a vested interest in what your feedback on a lot of the resources that we're sharing today. So I'd love to hear that. And now I'll ping pong over to Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I am the manager of internships and wellness support here at CFSI. I'm also a licensed social worker, so I help with any student support concerns as well as mental health concerns that may come up. And I'm excited to meet you all virtually today. I'll pass it on to Erin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin. I'm the Associate Director of Enrollment and Engagement. I work on the recruitment side, so working with our college partners to find these lovely students that we then match you with. So also support on the matching side of things and some host org recruitment. So you might recognize my name from emails back and forth on that type of thing. I will pass it to Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm the Associate Director of Student Experience for CFSI. That kind of puts me in a lot of different buckets as well. I support on our classes, I support the internships team, but most of my work is centered around community life and our community life programming, as well as the housing portion of our program. And now I'll pass it to Izzy.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm the AmeriCorps Evaluation Vista. So I work mainly with the surveys that we send out and analyze all the data that we collect from you all throughout the semester.
Just want to Yeah, that's everybody. Izzy, I just want to add too that she is a program alum. So she gives us a very unique perspective in terms of what the different students are going through at different parts of the semester. She's an excellent resource for us, and I'm so excited that she's here. Thank you. I feel like now you guys now have a better idea of who and our staff members are on this call. I'm very happy that so many of them were able to join. I think that just means for a better, more engaging session. But I would like to start off with Edie, who has a special welcome for you.
Thanks, Corey. Yes, I just want to take a moment to really welcome you all to our spring 2026 cohort of semester in the city. And I phrase it that way specifically because I really want you all to think of yourselves as part of our cohort this semester. We really rely on you as mentors. Mentors are what make our program special. Mentorship is something a little more than supervising. This semester, you're really going to have the opportunity to support a young person who is really starting to dip their toes for the first time into the professional world. And so your help in helping to cultivate their career skills, their learning as becoming adults is part of our philosophy of launching students into a purpose-driven career. So I want to thank you all for your support and for being here and for being part of this program. I'm really excited about this semester. We really strive each semester to try and improve our programs and provide a better program to our students. And this semester, we're making a lot of changes, particularly in our classes, in tying what the work they're doing in their internships directly with all of you, much more closely to our classes and the homework that they're going to be doing to create a more integrated program. I'm really excited about those changes, and we've got a ton of information to share with you today about the way that our staff is here to support our students and here to support all of you as we make our way through the semester. So I'm looking forward to all of the things we have to share with you today, and I want to welcome you and thank you for being a part of this.
Thanks, Edie. That's amazing. I share your enthusiasm for this coming semester. I think we have made a lot of changes. And again, we're looking to see how that plays out. So you folks are welcome to contact us and let us know how things are going. Let's see, let's go to the next slide, which is the questions. We will be taking questions periodically throughout this whole orientation, but if you do have questions and you want to drop them in the chat, if it's something that, has a quick answer, we could respond to them right away. Otherwise, Izzy's going to be monitoring that. And then when we stop for questions, I'll always ask her to see whether or not there's any issues that have come up that we should talk about specifically. So let's see, away we go. Let's turn this presentation over to Ashley, who is going to give an overview of our SITC program.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So I just want to talk briefly about what this whole program is. So some of you are returning mentors. You've worked with us for many semesters. Some of you are new to this. So just an introduction to what we're doing and why we're doing it. Our goal with the semester in the city program is to give students an opportunity to dip their toes into a professional working environment and also learn about how to become what we call change makers. So to be able to associate what they can do in the world to larger problems and see what kind of difference and what kind of change they could make, which is why we particularly focus on the nonprofit sector and the social sector, to give students an opportunity to learn more about the social issues that they may encounter every day and see the real world solutions that are being implemented to help tackle those. So we follow an experiential learning model. We learn by doing, and the internship is a core part of that, but it's also just one part of the larger experience that students are having in the semester in the city program. So they have an opportunity to deal with some real world things in the classes, which we'll talk in depth about a little bit more. But we have two classes, our Social Innovator Toolbox class, which you'll hear us call SITB, and our Becoming a Problem Solver class, which you will hear us call BAPS. So in that Wednesday class, students are really learning about the larger social issues that they are navigating and what's the history behind that? What are some of the movements associated around that? And what are some of the tangible ways that they can make a difference? They have an opportunity in the semester to do like a human-centered design project and be able to tackle those kind of sort of like in a group setting. And then our Friday class really looks at some of the professional skills that they're developing in their internship and that are important to them in their career journey and helps them to assess like who are they going to be, both as people, but also as professionals moving forward. The internship really ties that all together. So they're not just learning about it in class, but they're navigating it at their internship alongside you as their mentor, who's really the guide throughout the entire experience. So more than a supervisor, but someone that's able to help them have real world conversations about what are they seeing, what are they learning about themselves, what skills do they need to develop, and what successes are they experiencing As many of you know, in your probably early career experiences, or even now, it's really easy to feel like, what am I good at? And what am I doing really well? And what do I hope to do? So a lot of your role is really helping our students navigate that. And then, of course, we have housing as well. So they're living with their fellows, they're exploring Boston, they are kind of becoming, learning how to do a commute that may be 2 or 3 hours, and then also come home and make dinner and deal with roommate conflicts and navigate all that. So it's a really full, rich experience that students are having throughout the entire program. The program starts with our matching process where we have placed students with you based on their skills and experiences and the needs that you have identified. And then the full internship experience really reaches its potential by having students work 360 hours, which translates into 30 hours a week. So basically like a full-time position, which for some folks in this program, it's the first time they've really had a work experience that's as intense as that or as in depth as that. But it really allows them to really get into your organizations, to work alongside different people, to see programs from the inside out, and have an opportunity to lead their own program. And then in addition to that, they have the classes, which equals to around another 6 hours a week besides homework. So there's a lot of support, which again, will go into a lot of depth throughout this orientation to talk about. But the internship team and the full team at Social, I almost call it SFI, which is our other program, but Semester in the City is really here to make sure that you have a successful internship experience, your fellow has a successful internship experience, and that people are really benefiting from the entire experience. So I want to talk about like what the day-to-day looks like. When it comes to the actual schedule at your site, you are in full control of that. You get to decide what time folks come in, what time they leave. But we do have some sort of guardrails around that. So again, we ask that interns do 30 hours a week, and how that translates across the week, that is really up to you. To consider that we do have two classes. So we have a Wednesday afternoon class that starts at 4, and students need a little bit of time to get there. The class is held in our building near South Station. So any hours on Wednesday should be truncated so students have time to get to class, and they shouldn't be scheduled for hours during that Wednesday class time. They also have a Friday morning class that starts around 9:30. So we ask that no internship hours are scheduled on Friday so that students have time to go to class, have time to catch up on homework, and also explore Boston if they need to. And just keep in mind that in addition to the classes, students often have homework that they will be doing after class. There's community life events that are often held on the weekends or after class. So that is also a part of the full experience that they're having. So your role in this is to ensure that students have that full 30 hours a week at their internship spread across that Monday to Thursday, and making sure that they have the ability to also be involved in the other parts of the program. If you're struggling to think through, like, how do I get 30 hours a week every week? That's what your advisors are here for, and we can help you brainstorm and make sure that you're making the most of the experience with your fellow. We also have a regular timesheet that they'll have to fill out, so we're able to really track those hours and reach out proactively if they're sort of falling behind of where they should be at any point in the semester. So certainly do reach out to us if you have questions. And again, the schedule is really up to you. So if you work with your fellow and you decide some weekend hours make sense, again, that's totally up to you. And you can reach out to us if there are more specific questions you have about the experience that you want us to support you with. What is the sort of like time that the intern is doing at their internship look like? So across the 15 weeks, we could sort of use this pie chart to help you understand how tasks should be split up. So about 10% of their time should be spent on what we call professional development. The whole thing is professional development, but these might be more focused activities like attending an event or a conference with you or without you, going to certain community events or meetings that may not relate to like what they're doing, but might be an interest of theirs. So giving them an opportunity to really kind of see more of the larger context of the work that you're doing and the work that the organization is doing. A large part of the internship, around 40%, is on that special project. So when you applied, you kind of identified a project that the fellow will lead and manage on their own. And that project takes up most of the internship and gives them an opportunity to lead a project. What that looks like across the semester will change. Obviously, they may not be start out in the first couple weeks ready to go on that special project. So the first few weeks might be more dedicated to either PD or more capacity building. And then as the semester goes on, they spend more and more time on that special project. About half of the internship is capacity building activities, and we define this as any activity that helps your organization function and allows the student to learn a little bit more about the work that you're doing, but also meets a need that you may have. So we have this list, and we'll send out these slides so that you can read through these and kind of like keep track of them for yourself. But this can include administrative tasks like taking notes at a meeting or attending a meeting. It could include like sort of helping to write a report. A lot of opportunities that students have are kind of outside of maybe your department. So letting them work with another staff member on another program so that they can learn a little bit more about it. So it's a very, very wide net, but it's really any task that helps your organization function and gives them an opportunity to learn more about their own professional skills and fills a need that you have as well. And then obviously we encourage you to check in with your fellow regularly. We require a regular weekly meeting so that you're able to have a touch point in them, but certainly kind of like encouraging them to talk to you about what skills they want to develop, what are they learning, what are they seeing, and helping them to reflect on that as they experience the internship and they learn a little bit more about what they want to do in the world. So being able to check in with them regularly and help them along that journey of professional development. I'm going to switch it over to Emily now, who's going to talk a little bit more about AmeriCorps and some policies we have around that, as well as some prohibited activities.
Thanks, Ashley. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about AmeriCorps and what that means to be an AmeriCorps member. So CFSI has partnered with AmeriCorps as of the summer of 2023, and AmeriCorps as well as CFSI are committed to preventing discrimination based on these characteristics. So we can take a second to read this slide, and then we can go ahead and transition to the next one. All right, so our partnership means that our students are eligible to receive a Siegel Education Award at the end of their service. This means they're able to get a $1,900 educational award that they can apply towards tuition, loans, graduate school, whatever they would like, specifically related to education. This also means that they are part of the AmeriCorps network as well as the CFSI alumni network. So if they want to continue doing service through AmeriCorps, as well as connect with other alumni through us, they're able to do so. Fellows that are matched with a social mission or a B Corps organization are not considered AmeriCorps members. However, CFSI will award them the same educational award with the same amount of money. So overall, due to these guidelines through AmeriCorps, we use AmeriCorps Learns to track service and training hours. This is where we track the hours that your fellow will be completing every week to make sure they are on track to get the award. And then certain activities are prohibited during their internship service hours, according to AmeriCorps. So we have 4 main categories that these activities are in. We can go ahead and transition to the next slide. So these are the 4 categories that students are not allowed to engage in during their internship. So political activity and advocacy, religious activity, benefit for profit entities, and voter registration. So again, these restrictions only apply to the time your fellow serves at your internship. So if your fellow has interest in engaging in political advocacy or religious activity outside of your internship in their free time on their own accord, they are absolutely able to do that. It's just during the internship that they are unable to count those hours due to AmeriCorps policies. We have already reviewed your organization's missions and projects, so you should be in compliance. But if you have any specific questions about this, you can reach out to the internships team as well as your SITC advisor. All right, next slide. All right, so why is there so much focus on service hours? There are 2 main reasons why we focus so much on service hours. So overall, we want this program to be a rich and rewarding experience for fellows. And that means they need to be at their internship for a certain amount of time, usually at least 30 hours a week. This gives them the opportunity to make a positive contribution to your organization and develop professional skills that they might not be able to otherwise. So this is really why we emphasize the 30 hours at your internship. This gives them the opportunity to basically act like a full-time staff member and get those skills that they might not otherwise get. And then the other reason why we focus so much on service hours is AmeriCorps. If we can go to the next slide, please. So AmeriCorps has strict hour requirements, as I just mentioned, that fellows must meet in order to get their educational award. So they need a combination of 450 hours during the semester. This is a combination of internship hours, which we call service hours. So this is any time that they're internship, serving with you, doing anything related to the internship. And then training hours. These are when they are at classes, so our Wednesday and Friday classes, they are able to count those hours, as well as homework hours if they are completing homework during class or after class as well. So overall, they need 450 hours total, combining service and training hours over the 15-week semester. Of this 450 hours, we like students to complete 360 service hours. Again, this is due to AmeriCorps. So overall, with this in mind, please prep your fellows, prep for your fellows' arrival so they can start strong. This might mean fleshing out the special project a bit more prior to the semester, thinking about other people at your organization that the fellow can work with, connecting with the fellow about their interests and what they might want to do outside of the special project. And then another idea I have for mentors is creating a parking lot list of ideas. So if your student ever is completing tasks quickly or you don't have a lot for them to do, you can create a parking lot list where you put some small projects or tasks that a student can pull from if they have some free time. As much as you're able to, please prep for your fellows' arrival so they're able to start off strong and get the hours they need to get their award. All right, and with that, I'm going to pass it back to Corey to talk about mentorship.
Thanks, Emily. That was really thorough. Well done. Yes, diving in on mentorship. As Edie touched on earlier, it really is a core tenet and something that is absolutely required and essential to make this program work well for these fellows. If we could go to the next slide. Past mentors will tell you that we do collect a lot of data from both you, the mentors, and the fellows. And this information on the slide comes directly from the fall 2025 cohort. So those fellows felt they really valued supportive mentors and the opportunity to do meaningful work. They enjoyed building their mentors' trust. They appreciated opportunities to problem solve, and they really did perform better with regular check-ins. Next slide, please. This was also some helpful advice. I know the first one happens to be Mike Lake from Leading Cities because a couple fellows mentioned it several times. You are the CEO of your own project. That really sort of puts people in the driver's seat and feel like, they have responsibility and they have a certain level of control. Also hearing you're young, but you can still make a difference. I think that's really key. And you don't have to be perfect. This last one, just the specter of perfectionism is a devil that just kind of continues to follow young people. And I think you could probably make an argument all people. So it's really helpful for them to know that they don't have to be perfect in order to do a good job. Let's see, next slide, please. The fellows also mentioned some challenges, so I wanted to mention those here. They struggled when they had weeks with not enough work, and especially in the beginning, and or when they didn't have direction or structure, so they didn't know when to log in if they were working remotely, or if they didn't know exactly what projects they should work on first. This is when those weekly meetings where you can touch base and set them on the right track really, really help. They struggled when they didn't know when people were out of the office, especially their mentor, and busy mentors who didn't delegate tasks. This last one, I think, is something that actually indicates how much they really want to help. If they see you working incredibly hard and they see that you're stressed, they want to help you in some way. And so being able to delegate even the smallest tasks to them will make them feel like they're contributing significantly to both your work and the organization. Next slide, please. They had a number of helpful behaviors that they also mentioned, and I'm just going to mention a few since there are quite a bit. Let's see, being accessible and encouraging questions, especially again at the beginning of the semester, being curious about your fellows' past experiences. They are young adults and they have lived a lot as well. So they enjoyed when people were asking them hey, what skills would you like to develop? How would you like to show up in this workplace? They really appreciated when you demonstrated how to give and receive constructive feedback and positive feedback. They're really watching when that happens in, say, team meetings or in shared spaces. And they also enjoyed hearing details about your professional journey, the challenges and obstacles that you faced. So this is what mentorship means, from like a fellow's perspective, but I want to go on and talk about how mentorship actually impacts you. So that's on the next slide. First of all, I mean, the most obvious one is probably just the capacity. You are gaining a fellow that is going to work with you almost at least 30 hours a week. Some of them actually do more. So it's almost a full-time employee, and they're very eager to make a contribution. So they can do a lot. Also, this program is an opportunity for you to strengthen your own skills, and that can be time management, project management, communication. I would say that mentors consistently say that the most meaningful part of the role, though, is connecting with, teaching, and learning from a young adult. So on the next slide, you'll see some quotes that we pulled from mentors. This is also from this past fall. Mentors appreciated gaining a supervisory experience of a person just starting out in their career. They remembered the challenges that they experienced as a young person, and they were happy to provide guidance. They found it gratifying to build a mentor and mentee relationship and see their mentees' growth. And just speaking from personal experience, one of the things that I really like about my job is that I like hearing about those positive working relationships that mentors and mentees, have built with each other. It takes some time, but it's one of those things that truly they never forget. I'm in contact with fellows from past semesters, and when they email me, they mention their mentors, it's just glowing. So that all the work that you're going to be doing is going to be very impactful for these people's lives moving forward, especially in their professional capacity. Okay, so having that being said, on a warm, fuzzy moment, I will transition back over to Emily to talk about how your SITC advisor will support you.
Thanks, Corey. So after this orientation, you're going to receive an email from your SITC advisor. This will be either myself, Ashley, Rachel, or Corey. So in the email, we'll be introducing ourselves. Please save our email for the semester so you can reach out to us. But overall, ways in which we're able to support you during the semester, we're here to answer your questions. During business hours, we will respond in 24 hours. You can reach out via email. Some of us have phone numbers as well if you prefer that. We're able to provide support to strengthen your mentor skills. So if you need help with giving or receiving feedback, if you're dealing with any conflict with your fellow that you would like assistance with, if your fellow would like to develop professional skills and you need some assistance with that, please reach out to us. We can help give you some documents or guidance around that. And then we're also there to help to work and resolve issues that may come up. So if needed, we can help facilitate difficult conversations. And then if there's a complex issue that arises, we have a dedicated student support team, including myself as a licensed social worker, to dedicate time to answer these questions, resolve these issues proactively, and overall benefit our students as much as we can. Next slide, please. So ways in which you can communicate with us. Overall, we want to emphasize that we can't help you if you don't tell us. We're really leaning on you to let us know if there's anything going on because you are our main contact at the internship. So please be proactive. If there's concerns that you have, if there's anything coming up, if you have concerns with hours, anything, please reach out and we can help in a timely fashion. But overall, other ways that you can communicate with us. We ask that you submit a biweekly internship update every 2 weeks. This is a small Google form asking, how are things going over the last 2 weeks? Are there any concerns that you have for your fellow? And your advisor will reach out if you indicate that you would like additional support. You'll be approving timesheets. So if there's any concerns with hours, we will be able to look over the timesheets and reach out to you proactively to talk about how we can best get the student to receive the Siegel Award and get those 450 hours in total. We have a site visit that we will schedule. So this will be a meeting between your advisor, your fellow, and yourself. Typically, these meetings are virtual, sometimes in person, and this is a great opportunity to talk about how things are going. Typically, this meeting takes place at the midpoint of the semester. So we talk about how things are going, if there's anything that needs improvement, how the special project is going, and overall, this is an opportunity to share more information about the internship. We also require 2 forms. So we ask that you submit a mid-semester as well as an end-of-semester evaluation form. And this is for us to compare how your student is doing throughout the semester and gather data to learn more about how this internship experience and the program experience is impacting their professional skills. So overall, evaluations are very important. We use this to influence our program going forward. So definitely emphasize those. But overall, if you need support, please email us. You can always email your specific advisor. You'll have their email after this meeting today once we send you those emails. If you forget who your advisor is, you can always email the internships team inbox. We all check that. So if you forget, we can forward it to the person that needs it and then go from there. So overall, please reach out to us if there's anything that you need. If there's any support that we can give you, that's what we're here for. All right. And with that, and talking about evaluation forms, I'm going to hand it off to Izzy, who works a lot with these evaluation forms.
Thank you, Emily. I'm going to go over this rather briefly, but I will be available after to talk more about these specific competencies if needed and how that would look for you as a mentor to observe in your fellow. So as Emily said, you will be taking 2 sort of longer term evaluation surveys, one in the midpoint and one at the end of the semester, that have a specific evaluation that we use to evaluate job readiness and the 20 competencies that we have that sort of measures our impact throughout the semester in teaching the fellows these different skills. So we have 5 competency clusters, 4 questions each that address a variety of different, very tangible and real world skills, such as like time management, professional networking, office culture adaptation, and more. I'm not really going to go over the entire clusters and 20 questions, but that there will be shared with you. I think they're on our website, maybe now, maybe later, but they will also be available for access if you need it. So you can go to the next slide, actually. Oh, never mind. You can go back. So I have based this on a lot of best practices seen throughout some job readiness. So like NACE and other ones that do a very similar job readiness survey. The scale is a 1 through 7 scale, as you can see in this slide. It's a very how often do they do this scale for you as mentors. So a 1 meaning never would be used when you have not seen the fellow demonstrate this skill even marginally, tangentially, whatever, you haven't seen it. A 7 is essentially stating that not only is the fellow proficient in this skill, they always demonstrate the exceptional ability to practice it. So for something like time management, a 1 would be a fellow that is consistently late, lacking in communication, struggles with project deadlines, etc. And a 7 would be a fellow that is always on time, effectively uses their time, and communicates plans like a doctor's appointment to you as the mentor. I do want to make it clear that these scores are no longer used in grading practices, so please do not be afraid to score them honestly, accurately, especially at that midterm mark, because it helps us look through and see where we can help better support fellows and you if they're really lacking in some specific skills. So also, how do I use this? Your midterm and end of semester skill ratings are compared against each other, usually as an average to identify both how skills are being increased at different host sites by different fellows, and how we can partner with you as mentors to make sure the fellows are truly grasping these skills. Like Ashley said earlier, we really practice and teach these skills in both FAPS and SITB. FAPS will be really focused on that professional development and making sure that the fellows have seen these skills before. So by the end of the semester, none of these skills should be unheard of by your fellow. As I said, I use this as an analysis to compare. The fellows also complete the same survey at the beginning of the semester and the end. So for this reason, we do not have a not applicable or a not observed section. This is used for comparison. I would not be able to complete an analysis for growth compared against the not observed or an NA, which is why I was really asked that you think like creatively and broadly about how the skills can be demonstrated, but also that you aren't afraid to score a fellow a 1 or a 2 if you really haven't seen that skill at all. I will be doing a thorough statistical analysis to compare percent growth by cohort, college, demographics, and then that will also be compared against the scores that you as the mentor do at the midterm and the end of the semester, so that we have more of a impact measurement than just the fellow self-reporting. This is our main statistical tool to showcase our impact. So it's really important to not only me, because I do all of the analysis, but CFSI and AmeriCorps as well. I can take broad questions, I think, when we get to the questions point, but I am also available for any specific questions about the competencies after.
Thank you so much, Izzy. Yes, we do collect a lot of information, and Izzy analyzes all of it so well. We do a wonderful job. And she's right. We are going to have the competencies up on the mentor resources page for you to take a look at. We just don't have them right now, but that's next to my to-do list. So I promise I will do that. So we have covered a lot of information so far. So I just want to take any questions that anybody has. I've seen in the chat that people were asking about the slides. So yes, that will be available after the orientation. But if there's any other people that want to chime in or are curious about anything, please fire away.
Corey, I'm Mary Ellen Morris. I'm with the LSPA, and I had a clarifying question about the advocacy exemption in terms of their hours.
Please.
So we're a trade association. We do advocacy work at the state level. Would that sort of like advocacy, public policy work related to the things that we do for the organization qualify as hours for them, or is that considered political advocacy?
Oh, is it political advocacy? Like, would you say, like, are you at the state house? Like, can you say a little
Right.
bit
So
more?
we do industry-based advocacy, but it's bipartisan, right? Like we're not going one way or another. We work with all the legislators up at the state house in order to ensure that the legislation kind of helps our profession and environmental concerns more broadly, but we're not lobbying in any one way. It's really focused on bill, and we're not campaigning on behalf of people. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit, like what your definition of political would be.
From my understanding, it's like politically, like advocating for a particular candidate. So policy sounds safe to me, but it sounds like somebody was trying to chime in. So let me let them speak. Was that you, Ashley?
Yeah, I can jump in. So a lot of it is like AmeriCorps is a government program, so they just don't want, when students are tracking their hours to be influencing government elections in a particular favor. So it sounds like they're bipartisan. The only tricky area would be the bill, but advocacy, as long as they are informing and not influencing. So if they're educating folks about a specific bill, but they're not saying, please vote for this specific bill, it's okay. And
Okay,
if it is,
that's helpful.
if it is a part of their work, they just don't track the hours. So if it's like, 5 hours where they like specifically were saying vote for this bill, we're not saying you can't do it. They just couldn't track those hours as a part of AmeriCorps, if that makes sense. So
That's helpful.
yeah, if someone had someone doing voter registration, you're like, this is a core part of our work, they can certainly do it. They just cannot be wearing any AmeriCorps gear while they're doing it, and they can't put those hours on their timesheet. So as long as they're doing informing and they're not saying vote for this person or vote for this bill, it's absolutely okay.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That was excellent. That's a good fine point to clarify. Anybody else? Oh, go for it, Edie.
I just don't want to pop in if there are no other questions. I just wanted to highlight the idea that one of my favorite things about working at CFSI is the people I get to work with. And in particular, this internship team of Ashley, Corey, Emily, and Rachel. They are all kind, caring, compassionate people who are truly dedicated to the success of our students. And as part of that, are here as a vital support to all of you. So I really want to encourage you all to stay in close communication with them. I would say that like 99.9% of all of the challenges we encounter during a semester can be either prevented or resolved just by staying in touch. So please do communicate with them. Feel free to email them, use them as a resource. They are wonderful people who are here to help you. And we're going to talk a lot more about what the actual direct supports available to all of you are after our break. But I really wanted to highlight that this is an excellent team and that you should stay in touch with them as much as you possibly can.
That is so kind. Thank you, Edie. Let's hop over to Alejandra, who I think has a question.
Yeah, hi, I have a question. So I wanted to know, I'm having a hard time catching up with like notes and taking pictures of the slides. Just wanted to
Sure.
know if these slides would be sent to us or accessible after the orientation today.
100%. They're going to be sent to you, and this video is also going to be sent to you. I sent you a message. Oh, I sent you a message, but I responded to the wrong thing. So I apologize. That's me. That's a tech
Okay.
failure. So yes,
No worries.
they will be, but they will be provided for sure.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you. And Wandy.
Hi, thanks all so much. It's really helpful to have more insight into how this process works. And my question is regarding timesheets, actually. So, trying to think of the best way for us to also track how many hours our fellow is going to be working with us, and if we'll have access to their timesheets, if there's like a Google sheet that they're going to be working off of, what does that look like? Especially if we need to support them in even like filling them out and that sort of thing. And if we should run something in parallel, or if there's just one place where we can all be aware of how many hours the fellow is working on things. Thank you.
100%. No need to run anything in parallel. You will have 100% access to their hours all the time. So we run a website called America Learns, basically. And so like every 2 weeks, you will have a chance to look at their hours, and you actually sign off on them before we sign off on them. So yes, it's full transparency. You'll see what they're recording and have a chance to, if they've made a mistake, either in their favor or not in their favor, you can send that timesheet back to them, which is also very helpful. Yeah, even before it gets to us. So that is great. I do know there are some sites who prefer to also track it with, like, say, a Google spreadsheet or some kind of spreadsheet kind of situation just for their own tracking, and that is completely like fine as well. But yes, you will have complete access to their hours all semester. And if you do have a question and you need us to send a timesheet back as well, we can do that. Great. Oh, these are all great questions. Let's go ahead and move on to the activity, because I want to have you guys have a chance to get the juices flowing for problem solving wise. So this activity is just meant to show how an SITC advisor can help you with resolving an issue. So I'm just going to start by reading the scenario, and then I just love to have a couple of brave people, brave volunteers, just share out for maybe a first step for how you'd address this issue or this situation. So here it goes. The scenario is, your fellow does not seem excited by the work that you're doing at your organization. So it's difficult to engage with them because they never express enthusiasm. They ask few questions or rarely follow up for clarification. And your team members have noticed that your fellow has not made a real genuine effort to connect with them. So overall, you're feeling that your fellow is demonstrating a lack of interest and failing to engage with their internship work. Is there a brave soul, 1, 2, 3, who wants to share like how they potentially could work on this? Take a first step.
Sure, I'll start.
Yes, Age.
Sage. So, yeah, I mean, I think that I would begin by going over what some of the expectations are to see if there were clarifications needed, questions, or whether we were, that what's been started is aligned with their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it's work, and, capitalism sucks. So I understand that, being enthusiastic every day about work, no matter how impactful and fantastic that it can also be really straining. So, instead of waiting for them to ask questions about it, prompting with, what has stood out to you as being exciting? What do you think is less relevant to what you want to do in the future? And have you seen anybody else in our organization that does something that you'd really be interested in pursuing more? And potentially look for not just me as a mentor, but for support staff in any department that might be able to be a friend, a helper, a liaison to them to better connect them with whatever their work that they want to pursue is.
Yes, I like it because it's a direct approach. You're engaging with them, you're asking them questions. It's not you're not being judgy. You're not being negative. You're not like getting in their face, but you're still asking them and giving them the opportunity to connect with a lot of different people on your staff is also excellent. Yeah, so I love the engaged approach and just the idea of like what would you like to pursue? Like sort of turning it back on them. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. Let me see here. Oh, Crystal, I'm just sharing from the chat. Yes, I agree. I would ask them what their interests are and see if there are modifications I can make in the workload to shift a bit more towards their interest. Thank you for that. Being willing to do that and to make modifications is huge. I also know that there's not always times when you can do that, or sometimes you need somebody to do something, and so like we could work through that as well. I'll just put on my SITC advisor hat for a second and say a few things that it does help if you share a specific example. So if you've noticed a resistance to taking on tasks, you could say something like, during our team meetings, I asked for a volunteer to do some of our social media posts, and I know that you're interested in that. So I was surprised when you didn't volunteer, and leading with curiosity and ask them like a follow-up question, just like Sage was doing. Can you tell me a little bit more about like why you hesitated? I think some students are very fearful, especially in the first part of the semester. So like getting over that, they freeze in the face of fear. And so getting them to engage a little bit more and not be worried about perfectionism is really, really hard. And that's important part of this step. I would also say, Sage, you were in the right vein of just being like, how can I support you to feel more excited about your work? Again, not judgy, but inviting collaboration and conversation. And you could also be very specific and collaborative by asking something like, the most important change that I'd like to see with you going forward is the way you're approaching this project. I would like blah, some fill in the blank to change. And what do you think is a good first step towards this goal? So again, it's asking for engagement. It's asking for assistance problem solving. You're working on something together. You're not working against one another. You're really ultimately, you're just trying to find ways to get them to the next level. So thank you. That's just a few examples of how we could help you. And before I pop off of this, let me give Edie a chance to chime in as well.
Yeah, I just want to note, good to think about in all of these types of scenarios and challenges to remember that we're working with college students, and being a college student often comes with a lot of other pressures. And so often we find if there is like a shift or a sudden moment where suddenly the student is no longer engaging or has become withdrawn, that is usually an indication that there is some other thing going on, whether that's difficulties with their family or with their home college or with a social situation in their housing. And so trying to build a relationship and maintaining an open communication with your fellow can help to surface some of those things for us. And then we can provide the support to the student on that issue and help to get them re-engaged. So it's, again, keeping that communication open, always important.
That is excellent. A very excellent point. Yes, we should mention that we do have community leaders. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but they are also able to give us information about stuff that's going on in the apartment. So we have insight about what's going on in some of their personal lives if they're having roommate conflicts. And yeah, that's a very real thing that's a part of life and this program in general. Thank you, Edie. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you taking risks and sharing some ideas. And let's see, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley now to talk about special projects.
Yes, so I want to go a little bit deeper into the special projects that we've talked about. So again, when you applied, you may or may not, if you were the person who filled out the application, remember identifying a special project for your mentor, sort of like something that they are what we call like the CEO of. They lead it, and it's really the core part of their internship where they develop a lot of the skills that they want to work on: project management, time management, planning, feedback, communication. And it's meant to be a bulky project that they can lead. Obviously, they'll have your coaching and support, but that they should be able to move forward independently. And it's what is like sort of what we kind of grade them on in a way at the end of the internship. They present on their special project at the end of it, and they're able to really tell us like, Obviously, they do a lot of amazing things at their internship, but like a lot about this special project that they've gained some skills for. And it's great for their own future forward professional look. So if you kind of think about like when you are maybe applying for your first job or leaving college, it really helps to have like a project that you did. I did data analysis at this organization to help them move forward XYZ. So that's why we have that as a core part of the program. Now, if you created a project in your application, but things have changed, either you've lost funding, staff have changed, or you meet the student and you realize they have some skills that are really unique and really different and that fit a need, you can change that project. We just ask that you do that in the first couple of weeks of the program. 15 weeks can feel like a lot of time at the beginning, but it moves really quickly. And in order for the student to be able to successfully work on and complete the project, they need as much time as possible. So it is reasonable to meet the student, connect with the student, and identify a different special project. Um, we have the student complete what we call a work plan at the beginning of the semester in their BAPS class. So that's where they will clarify that project, clarify the milestones for that project, and sort of look at the semester and identify like, how am I going to complete this by the end of the semester and how am I going to work on it? So we really encourage you to use the first few weeks of that internship to really cement that with the student so they know what they're supposed to do, so they know what steps to take, they know how to start to plan, and so that you can learn more about the skills that they want to develop and that they want to support as well. So the project can be like one big project, or it can be like 2 to 3 like smaller projects over the course of the semester. It seems pretty flexible because it somewhat is. Really, the idea of a special project is it meets the need of your organization. So it's essential to your ability to build capacity. An example would be like a special project or special report, but it also meets the need of the student in terms of their ability to develop some professional development skills. And we'll go through some examples in a second so that you can really see what other folks have done in the past. You can also, this is a great opportunity if you're like, I'm not sure what to do, or I've met my student, I want to kind of create something different. This is a great opportunity to connect with your advisor and really fine tune that project as well. So what does it kind of look like throughout the semester, and how do you know that you're on track, and how do you ensure that the student is also on track of completing the project? So as I mentioned, the first few weeks of the program, you really want to focus on defining that project and thinking of a work plan and really identifying the milestones throughout the semester. So they will come to you and they'll say, hey, I'm working on my proposal and work plan. Can we meet and fine tune these things and help kind of like flesh this project out? So that's really what you want to try to do in those first few weeks of the program. And then week 6 through 12, so in the beginning of the semester, but before the final few weeks, it's really about actually completing the project and creating a deliverable. So one of the ways that we're able to say, like, is this project a successful is that there's a deliverable. So if they planned an event, an example of a deliverable would be like a project manual. So you as an organization can replicate the event, and maybe some examples of posters that they use to promote the event or an agenda for the event. So something physical, an artifact that we can say like this event happened or this project was executed. So you want to use the bulk of that program to really do that. And then once we get to a couple of weeks before the end of the program, we ask the student to present to us their special project, a really quick presentation that's primarily focused on their reflection about the experience. So you'll want to really culminate that project before the final few weeks of the program. We may have mentioned this before, but we offer a weekly newsletter that will come to your inboxes at the beginning of the week. And that really provides some really key reminders of like, this is the week in the semester, here's what you should be working on. It tells you what's going on in class, and it gives you some tips on how to support and guide your students through that special project. So just know that if you're like kind of trying to download this now, we check in regularly throughout the semester about the project and are here to provide support so that you can stay on track and you can support your students in staying on track with the project as well. I'm going to hand it over to Izzy, who's done a lot of great work kind of like cataloging a lot of examples of special projects over the past few semesters and can give you some indications of some really strong projects if you're still thinking of how to model yours.
Yeah, Ashley. You can go to the next slide. Okay, I'm again going to go over this a bit briefly, but Corey has also done a really good job compiling a resource of like great examples if you have more questions about where your fellow's special project might lie in these categories, just ask. As Ashley said, it can be pretty vague and they can fit in multiple categories. But we're just going to kind of go over these for reference. So a strategic project, this is going to be what most fellow special projects really fit into. This is the project that advances an organizational goal through outreach, networking, planning, compilation, etc. This type of project usually benefits the internal stakeholders, so you as staff, even if it's going to be used to benefit in like the future, the constituents or other members of the organization. So examples of this is gathering grant information, creating operations manuals, planning for outreach, or creating some sort of internal tool. Next slide. So an example of this is a web application powered by AI that Habib created last semester that would take survey responses and kind of filter them through AI to create case studies for leading cities. I'm not going to go through all the details of this just for the sake of time, but this is a strategic project because leading cities can now use these case studies filtered by the AI to market their different programs and attract new partners, which is beneficial to the staff of leading cities and makes it easier and more streamlined for them to use this information. Next slide. An example of what Habib's project looked like. So this would be an example of some sort of physical deliverable that you could give us, or that the fellow could give us to kind of prove the whatever the deliverable was. Next slide. So research and analysis, this would be a project that involves research and analysis of an issue, product, or goal for your organization. For example, like a B Corp organization would need some sort of analysis done to make sure that they're in line with those regulations. These projects usually do not involve implementing an actual solution, but can involve recommending solutions or researching which solutions would be easier or more beneficial to take. So examples of this, we research on organization impact, researching industry standards, survey results like I do, analyzing team or program or organization goals to determine if they're being met. Next slide. So an example of this is that Ashley worked at Tatum Robotics, which is a company that's working to close the communication gap created for deafblind individuals. So Ashley helped assemble parts of a robotic hand, calibrating tendons and testing for finger movements. So this was research and analysis because she created formal engineering reports of her results. So she explained testing objectives, set up configuration, parameter changes, and reported those results to her mentor, but also the organization as a whole. Then she also recommended future steps that once she was gone as the fellow, others could take up to further the research. Next slide. An example of the deliverables that Ashley submitted to us in the final presentation, you can see that it can be a bunch of different things. It's not just the actual CAD research or documentation, it's photos of user testing and assembly and outreach material. Next slide. So direct service, this is going to be a project that the fellow plans and or implements that directly benefits the staff and or constituents of the organization. This is going to be something that is usually like very hands-on and the fellow is going to go do usually multiple times. It's not going to be just one event. So for an organization like 826 Boston, this could be creating lesson plans, facilitating a class or workshop, but it also could be building art installations or going and helping to organize volunteers. Next slide, please. Like I said, art installation. So Zoe's project for LDBPI was to create an installation about educational justice. So she asked staff members of LDBPI to write about educational justice, and then she created a physical art installation that is still in the building. So this is direct service because not only was this an activity and there was interaction with the community, it now is still in the organization to be enjoyed by the staff and its constituents. Next slide, please. This is what that art installation looked like. You can probably go see it somewhere in the LDBPI building. Next slide. So event planning, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's planning an event, but the fellow will really be managing the planning of this singular or reoccurring event. This usually involves outreach to participants or people that will be speaking or attending, booking the event spaces in tandem with your help as the mentor, running the event, creating the activities, and creating the deliverables that describe how to replicate this event in the future and or how to make it more successful in the future. So usually these are big events, and this is separate from direct service because direct service would be like tutoring every week, but this would be a larger planned event that's like a career fair, a networking event, a wellness fair, something that involves more event planning than it does implementation of a direct service. And there, we can take questions on that also later. Next slide. So an example of this is Eric's project for the Williams Agency was to organize a comedy event to boost interest in the Rhythm and Spice Hot Sauce Festival. So Eric ended up making a like hot sauce eating challenge with the Comedy Studio show, which was really successful, and he ended up making it a recurring event that now occurs before the Rhythm and Spice Hot Sauce Festival every year. So event planning. This was the purpose of this was to boost social media engagement, but Eric then spent the majority of his time planning the event, doing outreach to the comedians that would be attending and eating the hot sauce. And then he went and really took initiative to plan how that event could be implemented in the future without his help. Next slide. Some pictures from the comedy show. It was very successful. We do recommend it. He reached out to us to attend this most recent one, I think. Next slide. So social media, also pretty self-explanatory, but this is going to be a project that involves the creation of content or the management of an organization's social media accounts. So an example of this is using the social media to convey story, mission of the organization in an interesting and compelling way. But it can also be creating LinkedIn groups, content creation guidebooks, marketing plans, or producing engaging photographic and video content. So it's going to be more than just posting on the social media. It's going to be really like the creation of content and management of a social media account for boosting engagement. Next slide. So example of this is Emery worked at the Sustainable Business Network Eat Local Always initiative. So she ended up creating a whole social media campaign for the month of November that highlighted local food and food related businesses. This is social media because she was using several social media platforms to do this and generated a ton of content to boost engagement and information sharing. But then she also tracked like engagement with that. So how many people were visiting the page, who was clicking on the links and more. And she also contacted potential collaborators. And next slide. And this is just an example of what that looked like for Emory. And I think that's it for special projects examples. But as I said earlier, Corey has a full resource of these. And if your fellow project doesn't fit in the specific examples of what you're seeing right now, it likely is still acceptable and can fit somewhere in this.
Izzy, you've done a great job of teasing everything that's going up on the mentor resources site soon. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Also, you're holding me accountable. Really well done. So we have a little bit of play in our second hour. So I would like to go ahead and take questions now and then move into a break because I know that, well, I would like to eat a banana and so just get my energy back. So if there are any questions, again, happy to take them now. Let's stop for a second. Okay. All right. So let's move into a break. Let's say 4 or 5 minutes. Let's meet back here at like 12:10. Give you a chance to do a bio break, eat something, resource yourself. And yeah, we'll see you back here in about 4 minutes. Ashley, did you want to pause? I did. Oh, thanks, Ashley. That is what I was going to remind you of. Great. Let's see. Perfect. Aaron's here. Love it. Welcome back, everyone. All right, just gonna wait one more second to see more people pop back in. Mm-mm. Hello, welcome back. Welcome to part 2. All right, let us go into this segment. Perfect. We've got Erin here, who is a member. Actually, she's not just a member; she leads the recruitment team here at CFSI, and she's going to be talking more about like how we recruit students, and then how you can also support their professional networking during the semester. So, Erin, if you would like to take it away, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. So again, I'm the Associate Director of Enrollment and Engagement, working mostly with students on the recruitment side of things. So we have a good number of college partners. These are schools that we work super closely with to recruit students from. So most of them, I would say, are in the Massachusetts and New England area, but some of them are outside of that, which is great. You can see most of our partner schools listed here, just so you can kind of get an idea of who we mostly work with. The way that we recruit students is kind of like a do a lot of different types of things approach. So we go physically to these campuses multiple times a semester to attend study away fairs, career fairs, things like that. At some of our schools, we are housed within the Career Center, and in other schools, we're housed in the study away, even though we're considered a domestic program. The majority of our students are going to be receiving full credit for these internships, which is why they are unpaid. However, we do have a good number of benefits, including the AmeriCorps scholarship that all of our students receive at the end of the program. Some of our gap semester students, even though they wouldn't necessarily receive credit for this, they might have the opportunity to use them as transfer credits, potentially if they go on to one of our partner schools, for example. The application process is multi-apply one, depending on the university. Some of our schools have their own internal application that a student needs to apply to. We have our own application that they then also need to submit. And then we have a pretty robust interview process. We've just redone the interview questions completely to really try to make sure that we are finding out that students have the characteristics that we deem a successful student to have. So we really find it important that the student can self-advocate, communicate well, and have some grit to them, right? We also make sure that they are aware during the matching process that if they're having a problem, they need to speak up about it. We can't support them unless they tell us what's going on. So we also have a priority deadline, and it's really important that our students get their applications in by the final deadline in general, but the priority deadline allows them to have an additional meeting after their interview with a CFSI staff member, where this leads to more of a casual conversation about what they're looking for in their internship. We do ask these questions on the application and in the interview process, but this is a more robust conversation. This allows us to start reaching out to you all earlier and maybe targeting a special project that actually relates to this specific student and will maybe fit your needs and their needs a little bit better. So it's also really important that you all apply early so that in the fall or in the spring, we know that you're interested. It just helps us find the right student match for you. And then also, I think, helps you in the long run to figure out where they're going to fit best in the organization at the beginning, rather than waiting until they get to you and having to rework the project. If you know that your organization is interested in applying for the fall, I highly recommend you do that now and let us know. The application, I believe, is live. If not, we will send you the link as soon as it is. I think we might be making just a few updates, but we definitely have better success finding students for you when we have a full job description or a special project description, really. My office and Corey's team, who's all here, is also part of the whole matching process and sending out match notifications, making sure that you're getting in contact with your fellows. And we have a match call for those students so that they can prep for your conversation together. We also hold a housing and student orientation for everyone. We just had that last week. Just like you are having this orientation, they are also getting an orientation. And then they'll also receive a full week of programming during launch week. I think next slide. Okay, so it's really important, I think, that we think about this opportunity for students as a time for them to really start figuring out professional communication. For some of them, this is the first time that they're going to be working in a more like formalized organization, or maybe some of the students have worked restaurant jobs or things like that, and this might be their first like real official office job, which is really cool. But this is a great opportunity for them to learn what networking really is. Like, some of them are super nervous. So it's really good to help them understand that networking just really means like talking to people and interacting with people at the workplace. It's really actually a lot more low stakes than they might think it is. And so we just really ask that you focus on having good conversations with them and building relationships at their internships. So that could look like helping them by introducing them to some of the other staff in your office, or maybe even connecting them with somebody that you're aware of after you get to know them a little bit, encouraging them to set up informational interviews with whether it's coworkers or people within your network. That is incredibly helpful. And then also delegating tasks that give them visibility within the organization, or after you work a little bit more in their special project and understand their capabilities, giving them an additional stretch assignment or project outside of that scope. Taking them to meetings and events outside the organization is also really great. Job shadowing. These are all ways that you can help them improve their professional networking and set them up for success, whether they're going straight to graduation after this semester or they're going back to their home campus. And then I have some slides on, I think we can go to the next one. Yeah, so we can look at the cohort. Go to the next one. We actually have 35 fellows this semester. We did lose one, unfortunately. Is going to do a different program, but that happens. So we have 35 fellows. We have 7 institutions represented. We have a good number of seniors, mostly sophomores this semester, which is really great. So we have a bit of a young cohort. We have good Pell eligibility, first gen and BIPOC representation in this group. We have 21 different majors and a ton of different languages spoken by our fellows, which is really, really cool to see. I always love, that's like my favorite one. Any questions around recruitment, how our team operates, or the cohort in general? Awesome. I will say you probably won't see me during the program. I'm kind of here for you at the beginning and then at the end again. So if any questions come up around the application for next semester or things like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I can make sure that you all have access to my email directly via, I don't know how Corey wants to get that to you.
There we go. I promise I will, for sure. Thank you, Erin. I always love looking at the students, like when we can actually see the students' faces and they're not just, an application or like a resume or something like that. That always makes me happy because they feel like real people and they're showing up in just a couple weeks, which is wonderful. So now we're going to segue into the many different ways that CFSI supports both you and the students in the program. I know that Edie hit on this, just talking about like how we are a supportive staff, but there are things that we do in particular that are program things that are meant to help you. So Ashley has it up already. We've got a weekly mentor newsletter, and that is something that I write. I send it out on Tuesdays. If you are particularly busy and you don't have time to read all of it, hitting the to-do list and the action items and reminders is usually a great place to start, because that tells you exactly what is happening on this one particular program week. And you get them for each week. So it's kind of like your own personal to-do list checklist where you can just tick off things, use the links to hop to different forms that you might need to fill out, and hopefully Bob's your uncle. If you are interested in knowing a little bit about what the students are doing in their classes, there is a This Week section. And I mentioned that specifically because some mentors do like taking some time in their weekly one-on-ones to discuss internship work, class work, how are they overlapping? How are they informing each other? Just kind of like reinforcing the skills and everything that are being learned in both. Also, finally, I just want to call attention to that there will be links in the newsletter to the mentor resources page, and that will be, but I'll make sure that it link to documents that are particularly important for that part of the semester. It won't just be a broad link to the mentor resources page. And speaking of which, that happens to be our next slide. Okay, so here's what the page looks like. It is linked off the main CFSI page. You can see it at the top. It's under Partners, Mentor Resources. But I will send a link to you all after this in the email that with the slides and the recording of this. You'll also receive a link to this page. There is a mentor FAQ on this page, which I structured out over the course of the semester. So like if you're looking for questions early on, you wouldn't have to scroll that far. And then we separate the resources themselves into things that are applicable to the start, middle, and end of the semester. And this links to documents happens to be the start of semester. So I would particularly recommend the onboarding checklists as something to take a look at. And also the what should I do before my fellow's first day. Neither one of those is particularly long, but it's just great to get a little pre-work underneath your belt so that you can get your headspace right. Think about possibly like the early smaller projects potentially that your fellow could do in their first couple weeks just to get their feet underneath them, but also feel like they're starting to do their work. So those two things are where I would recommend that you start. Let's see. Moving on, I think, this is probably a good time to move on to the next one, which is student support issues. So at the very bottom of the student mentor resources page, there is this section that's dedicated to student support. So I previously, and not just me, many people have mentioned that the SITC experience is often the fellow's first professional experience. So they're coming in relatively green. And it is also an opportunity for you to hone your mentorship skills. So this portion is meant to aid you in doing that. So this is strategies for helping them build time management skills, learning how they can step into the role of being a project owner. And really, your coaching is going to help build their professional confidence. So we have written support docs here if you're that kind of person. But if you want to see me on a video explaining these issues and these topics, please feel free to click on those. There's always parentheses with like how long the videos are so that you can gauge how much time you have. And also we added something to this page about specifically supporting gap year students. That's the most recently added material, which for those of you who are supporting people who might be a little bit younger, that's also a good thing to look at. If you need something else, of course, please contact your SITC advisor, and we're actively adding to this page. So if you have feedback about things that you would like to see here, we did tease that there's going to be special project examples and the competencies, but if there's something else that's missing, I would love to hear it because that would be a good summer project for myself. So on that note, I know Ashley has already described the classes a little bit in the first hour, but we do have another slide here about the classes. And Ashley, if there's anything in particular that you just like to add here, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a lot of times, like Corey mentioned, people are like, how do I get involved with the classes and what's my role in kind of like understanding the classes and supporting them? So we do write in the newsletter what's happening, but we definitely encourage your students to, encourage you as a mentor to connect with the fellows about what they're learning in class each week. In that Wednesday class, again, they're going to be learning a lot about social movements, social issues. They have a group project that they do throughout the entire semester that we call a human-centered design. So they identify a community need, and then they do research to basically create a solution that's centered on what people who are benefiting from the solution really want and need out of the project. So encourage you to connect with them around what kind of social issues are you learning about in class? How's your HCD project going? Is there anything that you're learning in class that has made you think differently about some of the work that we're doing? So I encourage you to have those conversations, but we do a lot of work in class to make the connection between the internship and the content in class that they're learning. And then our Friday class, which happens again from 9:30 to around 12:30, is more about those professional development skills. And this is more of like a problem-solving class. So they get to learn about a larger topic like data analysis, how to do that, what are some hard skills in that area, and then actually get to have an opportunity to do some data analysis work with either data from their organization or from their life, and get to actually refine some of the skills that they may be using at your actual internship. We also do something called advising circles in that class. So at the end of class, each of us advisors will sit with our advisees and talk about different things that are coming up in their internship and how to navigate them, how to talk to their mentor, how to ask for support. So any of the things that you can think of like in your first professional job where you're kind of looking for additional support and additional confidence building around how to navigate those, that's a lot of what we do in that sort of advising circle group. So again, a reminder, no interns should report to their work site on Fridays, but at any point, if you're just curious about class or want to learn a little bit more how you can make a connection, you can certainly reach out to your advisor, but encourage you to connect with your fellow as well. And I'll pass it to Emily to talk a little bit more about program support and student wellness.
Thanks, Ashley. All right, so we offer student support and wellness during the semester through CFSI. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we offer some various support through CFSI. First being academic support. If students need academic advising, if they need help with their classes, if they're interested in potentially transferring to a different college or talking about different academic topics like that, we have many people on staff that have educational backgrounds that can help with that. We also offer counseling and mental health support to fellows in two different ways. The first is through TELUS Health. This is an online platform that students have access to 24/7. They are able to access this via an app on their phone. So the idea is that they go onto their app and they're able to connect with a mental health professional via a phone call or via text. And again, this is 24/7 and it's free of cost to them. So this is a great resource for them to use on their own time. Additionally, we also have Robin Slavin, who is pictured here. She is our mental health clinician. She is an independent social worker in Massachusetts. She has a lot of experience working with people one-on-one. So she is able to offer one-on-one mental health sessions, either virtually or in person for students during the semester. We also have a student support team at CFSI, including myself and some other coworkers. And this is where we talk about some concerns that might come up and how to proactively resolve these issues for students. Lastly, we offer career development. So Robin is also a career coach. She has a lot of experience working with college students in career coaching and advising. And then we also do some work in our BAPS class, our Friday class, covering workshops related to resume writing, cover letter writing, networking, how to create a LinkedIn, things like that. So we offer various support during the semester. If you feel like there's any additional support that your fellow would benefit from, please reach out to us. We will look into it and do our best to support your fellow and yourself as much as possible. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Edie to talk about financial support for students.
Thank you. Yes. So we often have mentors ask what sort of financial supports we offer to students. So we're just going to give a quick rundown of what we provide. The first thing that students receive from us is a living allowance of $595 throughout the semester. There is nothing that students need to do to receive this. We break it into 3 installments throughout the semester, hand out those checks during our Wednesday classes, and that is just a money that they are allowed to use as they see fit throughout the semester. The second is a reimbursement stipend, which is broken into 2 sections, a $585 food reimbursement and a $40 fitness and wellness reimbursement. The things that these can be used for are a little bit limited based on our AmeriCorps grant, so it won't cover things like alcohol or other prohibited items. But generally, students are able to submit receipts for grocery purchases, restaurant purchases, some health and wellness type things like as simple as shampoo or as much as a gym membership. These sort of things can all be applied for reimbursement, and it works as a drawdown method. So they submit the reimbursement, we pay out based on what is an allowable expense on that. We go through the whole process with students on how they can reimburse all of that during our launch week programming. And then some other things we provide, students receive a unlimited MBTA train and bus pass. This applies just to the T and to buses. So this does not apply to commuter rail. So if your office is in a location where students are going to have to use the commuter rail to get to you, you should let us know, and we can talk about how we can find some support to make sure that student is able to get to their internship. We also provide dinners on our Wednesday classes, so they get at least one full meal from us directly for free every week. We do some budgeting workshops with our students to help them build a budget based on this stipend and reimbursement to get them through the full semester. And then the final thing we have is an emergency fund, which we've developed really over the last year and a half. And we go into a little more detail on the next slide. So there it is. So the emergency fund, really this developed out of what we saw as direct needs from students. And the sort of first things we saw around this were mostly based on when students had a family member pass away or become ill, and they suddenly had to fly home. And so we're able to provide some support towards that travel expense. And we've built it into a bit of a more robust emergency fund. And this is a first come, first serve basis, and needs to meet a couple of particular criteria. Specifically, it needs to be emergent in nature, needs to be a result not of poor financial planning or poor decision making, but really something that is unexpected in nature. The students are given a form that they can fill out to request an emergency fund grant, which is reviewed by myself and Rachel and our support team for approval. If approved, it is made as a grant with no expectation of paying us back. Typically, these range anywhere from $100 to at the maximum $500. It is rare that we give a full $500 emergency fund request, but in a truly emergency situation, we would. If we go to the next slide, just because this has presented some confusion in the past, we talk a little bit here about what is covered by the emergency fund versus what is not. So like I mentioned, sort of unexpected travel costs. It's important to note that we do not pay medical costs directly, but we can support in travel costs for medical reasons. Temporary assistance for food insecurity. This is one of the more common ones we see. Particularly last semester where there was a lot of cuts to SNAP benefits. We saw students having some difficulty with food insecurity, and we always try to maintain open lines of communication with our students, and we will make sure that they are fed throughout the semester. So that is sort of a #1 priority for us. Housing assistance, this is more less a cash payout and more that we have options for housing in our student housing facilities. We have a couple of apartments in Alston that we house students in throughout the semester. Sometimes we see students at the end of the semester who, because of flight issues or family issues or issues with their home institution, are unable to leave on time. And so we have options to extend housing or sublet housing. We sublet all of our apartments during the summer and offer alumni discounts to students. So lots of options around housing. Some things it does not cover. We won't pay credit card debts. We're not going to pay parking tickets. Anything that is considered a legal fee, we are expressly forbidden from paying. Anything, like I mentioned, that is due to a lack of planning or budgeting, that is just poor decision making, we will coach students through that from a budget perspective, but we're not going to make a payout to bail them out on things like that. So that's our sort of emergency fund, our financial support. Again, we always encourage students to talk to us if they're encountering financial difficulty, and we're flexible about working with them on ways that we can either support them directly or get them support that they need. And I'm kicking over to Rachel, it looks like.
Hi, everyone. Yes, thank you, Edie. I'm going to talk briefly about just some community life programming, engagement, and some of our like emergency guardrails and supports for students, especially outside of that 9 to 5 window when they're with you or we're available online. In case anything does come up, kind of how do we handle that as a staff? But to start, oh, there's me again. Can move on past that one. I'm going to talk about our community leaders. So these are 2 students this semester that through a very rigorous interview process, in addition to the recruitment application and interview process that Erin goes through. I also interview students who apply for this position and choose 2 outstanding students to be community leaders for the rest of the cohort throughout the semester. It's a very competitive position. It does come with a oops, sorry, that's my cat. $2,000 housing stipend as well that they can apply to their housing, as well as a closer connection with me to work through any sort of emergency or behavioral issues that we're seeing in the apartments, as well as just supporting the apartments, their maintenance, and their function in general. So we have 2 students from Wheaton College this semester that are going to be supporting me. They'll move in a week early. They get some really hands-on training, and then I'll meet with them every week throughout the semester during our Wednesday class to check in not only on them, but just how the cohort is doing in general. They are going to be trained in conflict resolution and be able to field some of those smaller questions that might not be ready to come up to a staff level or don't feel as important to bring up to a staff level yet, and help other cohort members work through that. They're also there to be a support for students struggling with their internship, maybe struggling to reach out to their advisor, guiding them through those conversations, guiding them through reaching out to you as a mentor, as well as anything that might come up with struggles in class, falling behind on homework, or anything like that. They also will have direct contact with a staff member on call 24/7. And that is just a way that we're able to connect with anybody in case of one of those serious emergencies, whether it be a personal emergency or a housing maintenance related emergency. We can go on to the next slide. Yes, so in case of emergency, this is something that came up last semester, the semester before. We do just encourage you to ask your fellow to share emergency contact information in case of a medical emergency. It's always good to have that on hand. We also have those contacts and that emergency information on our end, but in the case that something happens while they're at their internship with you, it's always good to have that contact in case something comes up. If something does come up during your time, please email your SITC advisor with a description of the event, and we'll work forward for any next steps that may come out of that, whether it be a medical emergency or something that needs support from both CFSI and you, maybe some adjustments to internship hours or some allowance to work remotely if that is going to kind of address that situation. On the more fun side, we also work as a team to plan community life events throughout the semester. So these are things like movie nights in the apartments, team building, cohort building events. And then they can be things as big as going as a group to a Red Sox game or planning a trip to the MFA, things like that. So I guide the community leaders through that planning. I help them facilitate things on the back end in terms of like booking tickets, etc. But they're really student-led. I try and keep my hands out where I can so they can really have time to bond as a group and don't feel like there is a staff member involved in that programming. This is something that I think is a really big highlight for our students throughout the semester. It's a time where we get a lot of great photos and a lot of great feedback on, their ability to explore Boston, but also the kind of metropolitan area as well. We encourage them to use the commuter rail to go out of the city. Sometimes in the fall, they'll go to Salem for a Halloween trip and things like that. So this is a really fun piece that we want to remind students who are in Boston and to take advantage of that time. And as Ashley was kind of talking about with the weekly breakdown, that's why we try and hold some space sacred on the ends of Fridays and on the weekends for students to be able to participate in these events. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, team, thank you. It's so good to have you all here. And I just think, as Edie said before, I'm just going to echo what they said, which is that, we have a very supportive and kind team, and we really will do everything in our power to help and assist and support these students throughout the semester. And I really value them as team members. I really enjoy my job here. So our next activity is just to give you a taste of what advising circles is like. And so we're going to split you all into breakout rooms with just smaller numbers of people in case you were hesitant to ask a question in front of everybody. You'll be with either, let's see, myself, Emily, or Rachel, I believe. And then, so let's just take a moment for Ashley to go ahead and get those assignments in place. And then if you happen to have not registered or registered for the event a little late, if you don't mind just assigning yourself to a breakout room, because I believe she's already done the pre-work in order to get us all in there. So I'll turn it over to Ashley. Did we make it back? It looks like we all made it back. Woohoo! All right. That was great. That was great to talk just a little bit more personally and, get the questions answered and then have follow-ups too, have that opportunity. One final section, which is going to be led by Ashley, and that's just talking about, like what's next for you all, what's expected, and just getting you set up for the semester. So let's see. Has she come back in?
I am. I'm here.
Oh, beautiful. Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of people to look through.
Seriously. Thanks for setting up the breakout rooms. They worked really well.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so just sort of like a final checklist as you're getting ready for your fellows to start. So just mostly administrative stuff. There is a host fee due, so if you haven't paid that already, or whoever your contact is, they should have received an invoice for it, and should have paid it. So you just want to make sure that you complete that before the start of the program. If you have never been a mentor with us before or used America Learns, you should have received an email helping you set up your account. That link only lasts for 24 hours. So just make sure that you go in at some point today and set up your account. That's where you will approve timesheets. It's also where you will sign our memorandum of understanding. And if you haven't worked with us in about a year, you'll also need to upload a certificate of insurance, just letting us know that you have some form of insurance, liability insurance if something happens. So you'll do that on America Learns. After this email, we will send you the slides, the recording, and just some more information about approving timesheets and uploading documents. So you'll have that in your email if you want to wait to see that before you start digging around in there. So just make sure you do all of that before the first day that the internship starts, which is on February 2nd. Just to go into our memorandum of understanding a little bit, it's our agreement between us and you and the fellow about what is this internship experience going to entail. So from the host organization, it's basically saying that you're going to have a dedicated person who supports the fellow throughout the experience. You can't provide any cash compensation, but obviously we provide some support to that fellow, that they have an appropriate workspace that they can work in, and that they have any resources that they may need to complete the work. So they may not have their own desk, but they know that they have a place that they can go, and that if they need computers or, access to some different documents, that they know who they can go to ask that. I will say, if for some reason your fellow doesn't have a computer and you don't have one, we do have sometimes spare computers, so we can provide that, but just essentially they have what they need to complete their work. Like I mentioned earlier, you have some proof of general liability insurance and workers' comp insurance, and also that you agree to pay the host organization fee. And then just more specifically for you as the mentor, we ask that you do a weekly 30-minute check-in, virtually or in person, just to provide additional support and make sure that you have a standard check-in with your fellow to make sure things are okay, ask about the special project, and give them some support. we send out again that biweekly internship update where we ask you how the internship is going. So we ask that you complete that. We only really require the first and last one, but it's just a really great pulse check for you to let us know like things are going well or things are not going well and I need some support. And then if we are reaching out to you, that you agree to reach back out to us, like respond to our emails, at least within 72 hours. We also have that agreement with you that if you send us an email, that we try to get back to you within 24 to 72 hours. So we just ask that you share that same responsiveness with us. We ask that you agree to attend the site visit that we do. Again, those are often held virtually, but they can be in person as well at your request. And that you submit the evaluations that we ask of you. So that midterm assessment and the final assessment for the fellow, and that you submit those by the deadlines that we set. And then that you go in and that you're approving the timesheets and that you're reviewing those. So the fellows will complete those timesheets every couple weeks, and your responsibility is to review those and approve them, and that you do that in a timely manner so that we can keep track of the hours that the student is completing at their internship. So as you get ready I'll go over some kind of key dates, but the first day of the internship is February 2nd. The week before that, the students are actually moving into Boston. They're moving into our apartments, and they are doing our launch week, which is a full week orientation that get them set up for success for the program. So leading up to that, there's some ways that you can like prepare to support your fellow. If you haven't already, reaching out to them via email, either this week or certainly by the first day of the internship, to welcome them to the internship and give them some basic information about how to start, where to go on the first day, how to get there, what time they should be expecting, and then using some time to really think about the first couple weeks and how you want to use their time, who they want to meet, and things like that. So basically creating an onboarding schedule. As Corey mentioned, we have some resources on our website. So we have some examples of those. If you're just looking to plug and play an onboarding schedule, you can just take ours and kind of build one out that's unique to your organization and to the student. If they need any tech or they have to sign any HR paperwork, just making sure that you make those appointments during that first week and that they have a chance to do that. And then kind of thinking about how you might announce the fellow to your team if you haven't already, like just sort of like an introduction of who they are, of what their project is, and making sure that folks know that the fellow is coming and what they'll be working on throughout their program. And then during the semester, just ensuring that, you have a regular cadence of work for the fellow and that it reaches that 30-hour a week milestone, that you have that weekly meeting, that you are really kind of taking time to review the special project work that they're doing and giving them the structure they need to be successful. You're approving the things that you need to approve, turning in the things that you need to turn in. And we mentioned this before, but like coming to us as soon as you notice any issues. So sometimes mentors will say like, oh, my fellow's been late a couple times, but it's not that big of a deal. Or I asked them to complete this and it kind of took them a little bit longer. I don't want to make a big fuss of it. Please make a fuss of it by coming to us as soon as possible. Those things start to build out over time, and these are young professionals, and we're all humans. So sometimes folks just need the appropriate feedback and the appropriate sort of like setting of expectations so that they can be successful at the internship. And the longer those issues continue, the bigger they get, and sometimes the harder it is to navigate them and solve them. So we want to tackle things as early as possible before they become an issue that is unsolvable or really difficult to navigate later in the semester. So as soon as you're noticing any issues or have any questions, like please reach out to your advisor so that we can support you on it and give you some advice and tips, or go to our resources to see how you can typically navigate those on your own. So again, we're going to share this slide with you, and we will share in the newsletter every week when any of these dates are coming up. But these are some kind of important dates for the semester, just to give you an idea of deadlines that will happen. So like I mentioned, students move in January 26th, and they spend the full week with us during an orientation. This gives them a chance to get used to Boston and their housing and commuting before immediately starting their internships. And then they will come to you on February 2nd. I would certainly say give folks some grace during that first week, but still hold them to some expectations as they learn to navigate the T, learn to deal with a larger schedule, learn to being in a new city. I think definitely a great time to check in with them, see how they're doing, seeing how they're acclimating to everything, and providing any support they might need to kind of like start off strong. And then in those first few weeks, we'll also be asking for that special project work plan and proposal. So making time that you define that with your fellow. For the mentors, these are the dates that we will be asking for your biweekly update. So this is going to be a Google form that's in the newsletter every week. So you just go and fill it out and just make sure you submit it by the end of the week so we can hear how the internship is going. These dates, the timesheet dates, they're due every couple weeks on Sunday. So you should expect to get an email from America Learns that your fellow has submitted their timesheet. It's your responsibility to go in and review that within a couple of days so that we can check in on it. If you don't get an email, it probably means that your fellow didn't complete the timesheet or maybe it went to your spam folder. So certainly let us know so that we can kind of keep track of the hours throughout the semester on time. We do have 2 holidays during the semester that we recognize, and these are days where this fellow is not expected to go to their internship and our offices are closed. So that includes President's Day, which is on the 16th, and Patriots Day, which is on the 20th. So those are already built into the program, and we kind of made that calculation with the hours. If your organization observes any hours outside of that, certainly let us know. Sometimes it's okay to miss 1 or 2 days, but if there's multiple days, it could affect how many hours your fellow is able to complete. So making sure that you create some sort of plan. Like sometimes nonprofits close during February vacation week. So making sure that you just make a plan, or if you're out sick and you don't have like sort of a built-in support for your fellow, just making sure that they can always complete their hours if there's some disruption in their schedule. And then these are the dates in the grading column, just like when we're asking for those midterm assessments and the final assessments. And we also ask that at the end of the semester, you grade their special project deliverable. And we use that as a part of their grade since they get college credit for the program that we send back to the school. So we're often on really tight deadlines with those. So we just ask that you respond to our emails as quickly as possible and grade those as soon as they're available to you. And with the midterm and final assessment, we ask that you actually meet with the fellow and talk about the feedback. So just making time to both complete the form and have a chance to have a conversation with the fellow about it. The last day of internships is May 5th. So that's the final day that fellows are expected to go to their internship. And then we have a graduation for them on the 7th, which we will invite you to. It's a really lovely event that is just a great culmination of all the work that fellows have done and an opportunity for us to celebrate you and the fellow. So just keep those dates in mind as like a place that you're working to in the internship. They'll also present their special project, which means they should be complete. Their special project should be complete by May 1st, which is a few days before the actual internship ends. So just making sure that students are ready to finish their project and present it by that May 1st date. Again, I would encourage you to print this slide out, place it on a wall, or put it in your actual calendar. But we will certainly be checking in with you throughout the semester, and just encourage you to be responsive to us and let us know if anything comes up so that we can support you and your fellow. I'll switch it back to Corey now to close us out.
Great. Just one last slide. And everybody, we made it. Great job. Thank you for being here. We just know that your time is valuable. So we appreciate you spending these 2 hours with us. As Ashley said, you're going to be getting some emails from us. But again, do not hesitate to reach out. For everybody that feels set and settled, like please feel free to log out, but our staff will stay here and be ready to answer your questions. So it is totally up to you, voluntary to stay and maybe do a little bit more questions and work, or please feel free to sign out. And again, thank you. We really appreciate your time. Ashley, you want to stop recording? Perfect.